Hey there, folks. It is September 2nd, 2020. We are never going to get another one like this, so we will make it a good one. I am Dave Shrine, and I'm here with my compadre, Steve Edwards, and we are going to talk mules and donkeys for the next hour. Steve, how is the day treating you?
Well, by golly, it's a busy day. I can tell you that for sure. We've got this whole house is tore apart. The tilers are got everything laid down, so I had to move out here to the corrals to do the show.
That's right. Got to move out to the corrals, do the show. I hope you all enjoy Steve's new scenery there. It's definitely a great look for the live stream, and we're just glad that we get to do this every single week. So if this is your first time ever hanging out with us, I do want to say welcome. We're grateful that you have chosen to spend a few minutes of your day with us, and hopefully you've got some questions, and we will do our best to make sure you get the answers. And that's really what this is all about. So there's really only three things we ask. And if you check in the comment section there, you're going to see folks have already started number one. And that is just that you say hi. Let us know that you're watching. Let us know where you're watching from and what the weather is like. And so I'm here in Chandler, Arizona. Weather is 102 and 101 and sunny, it says. Steve, what's the weather like out there right now?
Hey, it's right now. They said it was 99.6 right outside here. The thermometer I was looking at, and lots of sunshine as you can see, and blue sky.
That's right. So where is it? What is it like in your neck of the woods? So that's the first thing. Your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather's like. The second thing that we ask is that you ask any and every question that you've got. We've got a few that have come in from email this week, but the majority of the questions that we answer, they come directly from you. And so we'd love to hear what it is you're working on, what it is you have going on when you go out into the corral, when you go out and do some leading, do some ground foundation work. What is it that you're working on, and how can we help? And then the third thing, and this is really the important one, we just ask that you share the broadcast. If you are on Facebook, all you have to do is put the @ symbol in there, type a person's name, and then tag them, and they'll come, and you just say, hey, come watch this show I watch every single week on Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, go ahead, click the subscribe button, the like on this video and the subscribe button, and then just send the link. Text the link to a friend, email the link to a friend, send it to them and say, hey, come check out this show I watch every single week. And really, that's all we ask. Everything else is 100% from y'all. And with that, we'll go ahead and start saying hello to everyone who's joining us. What do you say, Steve?
Hey, let's get her done, partner. You betcha.
Let's get her done. So we've got one of our fan favorites here. This is Linda. Howdy from Linda, the mule servant, and Theo, the sweet one-eyed mule in soggy and cloudy rural central Ohio. We had a little tease of rain last week, and that's just about it. So send some of that soggy weather our way. We'll take it. Ted Evans is watching from Valley Center, 87 and sunny. We've got Cowboy Ken watching from Connecticut, 75 degrees and drizzly. We've got David Scholl watching from Australia. We've gone international already, just a few minutes in. Good to have you, David. Good to have you here. David sent me a message. He goes, I don't see you wearing your cowboy hat. So I'm going to take that as a challenge, Steve. I'm going to bring my cowboy hat next week. I'll have mine on. Maybe you'll have yours on, and we could tell some stories.
That's right. And next week, I'll be in Flagstaff.
Flagstaff, Arizona. It'll hopefully be a little bit cooler there.
Yeah.
We've got Brazil, Brazil watching from Enoch, Utah. It's 88 degrees and sunny out here. Over on YouTube, we've got Leslie watching from Central North Carolina, 97 degrees with a heat index of 108. That looks like some Arizona number right there.
Yeah.
So with that, we'll go and we'll get started on our first question of the day. And our first question, this one was emailed in to us, and it comes from let's see here. I clicked the wrong one.
Uh-oh.
This one comes from Linda. I need help with my alpha donkey. He does not like to be left behind when his buddy goes and leaves their paddock. I have tied him in a space he goes to when we groom him, and I've left him in an open paddock. Each place he is frantic to get loose so he can go get to his buddy. He has even broke down the gate, took off, got to his buddy, and then ran off. There are things he will do in the paddock to make his buddy sure to assert his dominance. Is there anything I can do to calm him down? Steve, what would you say?
Okay, we're looking at nature here. This is the way God made these animals. You cannot train out or put in what that mule is made of. Now, this is not so much dominance per se, but it is called equine. It is called herd bound, and it is called part of life. They are uncomfortable when their buddy leaves. Now, let me give you something to think about, folks. I have even seen these mules and donkeys get worried because they bought them a goat to be a pasture or a pasture buddy. Worst thing you can do, folks, worst thing you can do is to buy them a pasture buddy. I got folks that can't even leave to go trail riding without their goat or their Shetland pony. So let's go back. They feel like they need to be with their buddy. And so they move and they move and they move. It's natural flight and fright to do. So let's take advantage of it. Let's use it to our advantage. You cannot teach him, you can't go spend time with your buddy. That's herd, that is part of the herding instinct of mules and donkeys, horses, equine, period. Some get more frantic than others. Can you fix it? No. Can we give him something else to do and charge of energy someplace else? Yes. My favorite thing is if you have the time to do it, is to, when the other donkey's out of sight, take this donkey, and you can even use this with your mules, and put the come-along hitch on them and start telling the feet, stop, stand still, be quiet, listen to me, show them you're the herd leader. Now listen, if this was a herd mare, this is what would happen. That mare would pin her ears and say, listen to me. If that didn't work, she just asked him. Now she's going to tell him. She's going to pin her ears and swish her tail. She just told him. Now she demands, she spins and kicks. You hear that, folks? Spins and kicks. If you don't do as I ask you to do, you are going to be made uncomfortable. So, same thing with this is a good time to put your come-along hitch on and teach the feet to be still. Now look, if you can teach the feet to be still on the ground, then when you get in the saddle, it's a lot easier to teach the feet to stand still. Now, all right, so now you don't have time today to do that. So, all right, put a properly adjusted, get that in your head, a properly adjusted rope halter, put it on the donkey's head, adjust it so that it is wither high. Always tie your mules and your donkeys wither high. If you tie higher, they pull back. They got a chance of pulling their vertebrae out of place. You tie lower, they got a chance of knocking their shoulders out of place. How do I know that? Folks, I have hurt more animals by doing things that I didn't know was correct or incorrect. So this is why I'm trying to help you. Tie the animal level, eye level. My favorite thing to do is to chain them, not you tie with a rope, because they will chew it and to find some way to get loose. So chain them, and my favorite thing is to a hitching post. Put a hitching post out there, and then when they move to the right, the knots on the halter bumps them. They move to the left, the knots bump them. So it tells them, be straight. They pull back, the knots bump them. So you're doing halter training both ways. On the ground with you there with a come-along hitch, on the hitching post, and then here's the third way. Again, we're taking that energy that they're saying, my feet gotta go, my feet gotta go, I gotta go be with my buddy, I gotta go. And even if you say it's a dominant donkey, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes it can be one that's not dominant. But anyways, go back. Put a surcingle on them, put a halter on them, bit them up, put them in a round pin, and let them go. Great thing about this is they're moving. They have to get soft. That surcingle makes them do what they have to do. That properly adjusted rope halter, as they're moving, tells them, all right, as you're moving, your nose is going to be uncomfortable, and it's putting pressure on the nose, and pretty soon they start getting soft. So in other words, final statement is give them something to do, but be sure. My favorite thing is one of those three. So give that a try.
Yeah, there you go. And that's one of the things that we get asked all the time is I've got an animal and it's some sort of energy that they've got and they're doing something, whether it's pawing, whether it's biting. And by biting, I mean like they find some wood and they, on a fence and they start to chew on it. Whether it's running, whether it's get excited. And that really does come back to it's just in their nature. You can't change their nature. But the idea of you can give them something to do. I think I remember for the chewing, you actually, what do you say? You find a Palo Verde or something like that, and you throw it in there, and you just let them chew on it.
Well, yeah, they kind of want to chew. So we started doing this at the Phoenix Zoo. Is we took a limb of a Palo Verde tree, and we just threw it out there and let them chew on it. Especially younger mules under 7. They're teething, they're gumming, and this sort of thing. They got to have something to do. So a Palo Verde limb was a great thing to have. You might want to check, folks, with your tree limbs and this sort of thing before you do this, so that you're not giving something that would be tough on the mule and would be noxious to them and can make them sick. So Palo Verde, I know for sure, works really well, and that's what we use here. But going back to this thing here, folks, I get this all the time, Dave. I just got an email from somebody that says one of the things they didn't want the mule to be is herd bound. Look, folks, that's natural. They want to be with the herd. They're safer with the herd. That's their mentality. That's the way they come into this world. They are not all leaders. Some of them are really good leaders and some of them are really good followers. But you cannot take and fix a herd bound animal. You can train them, to listen to you, like when you're in the saddle. Here's what I like to do when you're in the saddle. And this is a very big one, Dave. This herd bound stuff, it's a big deal. Because folks can't get it in their mind. You know what? We used to have horses that would want to be with the other horses. So first they would try to run to the left, run to the right. Now this is a horse, and it wouldn't work. Well, then they would start backing up, and that wouldn't work. So they would rear in the air. And what we would do because we knew, see, if they couldn't go left, they couldn't go right, they couldn't go straight ahead, and they couldn't back up. Next thing is rear up. So we used to keep water balloons in our pockets. Yes. And when they would rear up, we'd take that water balloon, smash it between their ears. The old timers tell us that the horses thought they would be bleeding, and they wouldn't rear no more.
Hey.
You know what? It never worked. I had horse after horse after horse after horse take and rear in the air, and I busted all kinds of balloons to them. It didn't work. I even throwed them down on the ground, and it didn't work. A lot of people think, oh, you throw them on the ground, you lay them down, and it's going to make them better. No, it doesn't, folks. It does not make their mind any better. If anything at all, it buggers them. So let's go back. When it comes down to this, let's just say that the other horses are going ahead, and this horse wants to go. This mule wants to go. This donkey wants to go, and he's really, I got to hurry up and be with my buddy. Herd bound, okay? But it's natural. So what are you going to do? You're going to show them that you are the herd leader. You're going to take this bridle, and I like to use the mule rider's martingale because it keeps their nose from going out. It keeps their head from elevating. So I'll take my mule rider's martingale, and I'll go right, left, right, left, right, left. So in other words, right brain, listen to me. Left brain, listen to me. Right brain, and I'll increase the intensity. I'll ask, I'll tell, I'll demand. Rarely does a mule rear. Rarely does it rear, because it doesn't like to have all 4 feet off the ground. It wants all 4 feet on the ground. So that's one way you can do it. And then you can go and be in the corrals and in an arena, and I would have to teach the person, because the mule would listen, I would have other animals ride by them. And so that when they would get antsy, they'd go right, left with their hands and get them to be quiet. But when you do something like that, you have to remember the nose is going to go out and the head's going to elevate. So you can't fix one problem and have a dozen other things that you created. So that's why I created the Mule Riders Martingale. You know, so there you are. That'll give you some overall things to do. I know I just give you guys a full bale of hay right there, but you cannot take out what the good Lord put into them. Flight and fright, they all buck, they all bite, they all kick. Get that in your mind, folks. These are animals. They are not puppy dogs. They are not predators like me and the dog is, but they are prey animals. And since they are prey animals, they're worried that if they leave their buddy or if the buddy's not around, they're not going to have somebody to help protect them when the mountain lion jumps on them, so to speak.
Yep, there you go. Well, let's hop back over to Facebook. Jack is watching from Johannesburg. We've got David Scholl asking, what is the best way to wean a mule foal at 8 months? Best way to wean a mule foal at 8 months.
First thing you do is you castrate them, which I think Dave's getting done. And the next thing to do is you take that mule foal and because they got to be walking a lot. When you castrate one, it's important that they're walking. So you're going to put the come along hitch on them, and you're going to do groundwork, move them around and stuff. Put them in a safe pen, very, very safe pen. I'm not talking about barbed wire and things like this, folks. I'm talking about a good safe pen. Now, Mama, she's going to be going, nah, where you at, baby? Where you at? So if you could take Mama clear out of earsight, so take that mare over to your son's ranch, which is just, well, it's still Dave's and Di's ranch, but take them over there and let her camp over there. Put her someplace else so that she can't be nickering to him and he can't be nickering to her. Then and no other animals around, no other animals. And just you be the mama, Dave. You go in there when you can. A lot of times when I'm out working with animals and I'm doing things, and I get a colt nicker and say, hey, Mom, where are you? I'll say, here I am, and I'll answer it with my voice, you know. And it's amazing how they'll get used to doing that. But you got your work cut out for you. But get them gelded. Take advantage of that gelding.
I do have a question. So the young ones, I'll hear them referred to as a foal. Sometimes I'll hear them referred to as a colt. Is that the same thing? Is there an age difference where they go from being a foal to a colt? What's the difference there?
Yeah, the difference is when they go from a foal to a colt is when you wean them. When you wean them, now they become a colt, and that just simply says that they've been separated from their mother.
Very good. That's helpful. I appreciate that. Also watching from Australia is Joy. She says, morning from sunny Murrayboro, Queensland, Australia. We've got Ross watching from Idaho, 92 degrees. Dan Davis is watching. East Texas, 86 and humid. Thank you, Steve, for getting my new saddle and tack to me. I love the saddle, so we're going to take that and we're going to make sure folks know how much Dan loves that saddle. Nadine is watching from New Hampshire. Yolanda says, got some news for you over here. All right, Yolanda, we're all ears. We've got Linda watching. Thank you for helpful tips. Linda, it's our pleasure. We're very grateful to be able to be here and do this. Linda's smiling. She says, our herd is a bunch of mares who make poor Theo stand off by himself anyways. So he is never wanting to be with his herd instead of me. So there you go. She's got her buddy. We've got Bill watching from Ohio. Cloudy and cool here, 75 degrees, sounds good. Mark Williams, running late, but I made it. It's about 78 degrees out here in Virginia. Good to have you here, Mark. Mark asked the question, is a rope halter the best thing to use to lead a pack mule, or should I be using something else?
Okay, the rope halter is the everyday use when you're not training. So let's just say that I've got to get my mule used to following my other mule, leading a pack string. So that's when I'm going to use my come-along rope only for a while. Now, it's different when you're down on the ground doing your work compared to being in the saddle doing your work. And that's really important to consider, folks. So you're going to be dallying, undallying, this sort of thing. So definitely start with the come along hitch. As your mule progresses, come along hitch and rope halter. As your mule progresses, just rope halter. Now I can tell you, and folks, you got to get this in your mind. Again, we're talking herd leadership. Now you just did all this stuff at home and you did your homework. Good for you. Now you're thinking, all right, I got him broke, I got him trained, so I'm not going to leave, I'm not going to use the come along hitch when I go to Colorado to go elk hunting. Or I'm not going to use the come along hitch when I go down to Tennessee to ride the mountains. Yes, you are. This is a new place, new smells, new areas. Take that come along hitch. Take that mule rider's martingale with you so that you can, when the time comes, you'll be able to bump them or be able to work in the bridle. Folks, don't think because they are trained, you think they're done, that you're not going to have to go back to foundation. Yes, when you especially change that radical and go somewhere to a show or something like that, yes, you're going to have to do some tuning in.
Very good. Back over on YouTube, we've got Myra watching. We've got Kiki watching from Oregon. It's 93 and sunny. And Myra from Ohio, she says, nice weather today with another heat wave on the way. Gracie and I are bonding more than ever. Love hearing that. Foundation work is going great. Any suggestions for getting a more reliable whoa? So number one, what does she mean by a whoa? And any suggestions for getting a whoa that is more reliable?
I'm thinking the whoa means to stop, a good, reliable stop. All right, so now what they're looking for is for you to let go of, the reins. So I'm going down the trail. When I teach a rein, I will hold one rein solid, my left rein solid, and my right rein, I will start kind of pulling it solid toward me like this. And as soon as I feel the mule give and quit, I just taught my right rein to stop. So I take my hand on my right rein and I get a hold of it like this and I just squeeze it and stop. I think I've got some video about that, Dave, with the mule rider's martingale, and it shows me driving someone. That is one of the perfect things I like to do, okay? Now, when you're training, folks, you're always going to use the tool to train. And my favorite tool is what I designed is the mule rider's martingale. The mule rider's martingale is something that most of you all don't notice on the donkey, the bit. And that means, again, that the mule is framed up, his back end is up underneath him, he's got his back rounded out because his head is down. One of the things is we'll be practicing on whoas, but the head is up, the nose is out, and we're not gaining anything. Yes, we're getting kind of a whoa, but it's not a framed up, respectful to the bit whoa. So I think if we could find the video of me working with the martingale in person would be helpful.
When about do you think that was? Because I know that at a clinic a couple years ago with that young girl, she had that gray mule, and I believe we used the mule rider's martingale with the surcingle at that point. But I'm trying to remember where else it might have been. Do you recall who we were working with or when?
Well, I think of also just about everywhere I've done this stuff, but I think we also the one in Australia where I was doing with that one man and teaching him the difference on the martingale. But I think the Why Does My Mule Do That video has it.
Oh, okay. I'll put a link. That's one of Steve's paid instructional videos, which is based upon probably his most in-demand clinic, which is Why Does My Mule Do That? Because that's exactly what folks ask. They say, Steve, my mule is doing this. Why is my mule doing this? And that's where Why Does My Mule Do come from. And a lot of it has to do with communication, almost exclusively. So I'll get a link to that. Before I post that, I want to say hello to Ginger and Lucas from hot and humid Georgia. David says, thank you. He will get weaned this week. Wayne is watching from Alabama. Hot and wet. Got my order. Thanks, Steve. I love the pocket knife. Where would be a good start to shooting around my mule? We had this a few weeks ago. And Steve, why don't you go ahead and talk about this again? Shooting around the mule. How do I get to doing this?
Folks, look, that's something that I try to tell folks you don't need to be doing. Now, if you're hunting, you're going to get off of your mule so that you can get a good rest to get a good clean shot. I prefer not to shoot off my mule, and I'll tell you why. It's a really easy way to have a heck of a wreck. Have I shot off of my animals in the past? Yes. Have I shot a couple of rattlesnakes off of my mule? Yes. But what I prefer is to get off of my mule, tie him up, take some rocks, and go smash that rattlesnake. So it's not what I like to do, folks. Some mules you can get by with it, but most of the time you can't. I know some guys that have set up and they've got into this mounted shooting, and they shoot it as it goes along. But I also know 3 of them that got bucked off or got ran off or something like that, end up in the hospital. So it's something that I prefer to say to you, you don't need to be bothering that. You know what you need to be doing? Teach your mule how to side pass, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, teach the mule to be respectful to you, things like that. Folks, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to him now about the shooting, but look, folks, these mules don't need a dog and pony show. They need solid foundation. They don't need to be laying down and getting up, things like that. You don't need to stand on top of their backs. You need solid foundation. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have had problems, but they can lay their mule down or they can stand on top of them, flop tarps around them. Folks, that is not foundational training. So going back to shooting, I actually prefer not to do it around my mules and donkeys.
There we go. Great question. Thank you so much for asking that question, Wayne. Really appreciate it. I know that one of the things that we come across is often when folks ask a question, there's other folks who either have that exact same question or are going to have that exact same question coming up soon. And so we appreciate you getting to it ahead of time there, Wayne. Eileen is watching from warm and sunny Nebraska. Good to have you here, Eileen. Back over on YouTube, Ben is watching, and Megan is watching from Prince George, British Columbia. So we've gone international again, 15 degrees Celsius and sunny today. We've got John watching from New Iberia, LA. We've got Laurel watching, Northern California, 100 degrees. How do I keep my mule from pawing when I need to tie her to a tree on the trail? So a very specific question. I need to get her tied to a tree. How do I get her to stop pawing so I can do that?
Well, we need to be doing our homework at home. That's the number one thing. What I like to do is take a leather strap, put it above the knee with about 18 inches of real heavy chain. And then when they paw, the chain hits their legs. Now, you're going to put a strap and a chain on each leg. And then the chain and the strap is going to try to fall down. So you're going to take some baling twine and go from the leather strap over top of the neck to the leather strap on the other side. By doing that, then you'll keep it from dropping down. Now, here's another thing, folks. This is what the good Lord put into them. They paw to tell you, or they paw to get for them what they want. What they want is, I want to bend down and get a bite to eat. Or they paw to break off the ice to get something to drink. So it's pawing, saying, hey, I don't want to be tied here. The downside of it, like if you're in the national forest, if the Forest Service catches you tied to a tree and you paw the bottom of the tree, you will pay for that tree. So just one thing out there. So pawing is part of life. It's what's natural to an equine. Can you do things like put the chains on them and the straps? Yes, it's a good thing to do, but do it at home. I can also tell you that I put the chains on an animal and moved them 15 foot and took the chains off, and they started pawing again. They will not stop pawing. You can make them uncomfortable by putting the chains on them, all right? Another deal, they're getting ready to eat, and all of a sudden they want to eat right. They're pawing. They want their food now. Well, don't put their food down. If they're pawing, put the food down outside of the feed and say, okay, when you're done pawing, I will give you your feed. But here's what happens. If you give them their feed, then they're going to say, okay, when I paw, I get what I want. Now, go back to the mule that was tied up. When you untie them and let them go get grass, you gave them what they wanted. They wanted to do that. Now, what you don't want to do, folks, and a lot of people do this, is hobble the mule. Don't hobble the mule, because pretty soon the mule is going to start rearing up with both front feet and pawing with both feet. So don't do that. Use the chain. It works very good, but start at home. And let me tell you something. I've even taken and put the chains up by the feeder. And they look at that chains thinking, oh, shoot, if I start pawing, I get the chains. I've seen it time and time again. Treader pawers, same thing. Put the chains on them above their legs, and when they paw, that heavy chain bangs them on the leg. Now, is what you got to do. You're not going to put the chains on those mules all the time. You're going to put them on long enough when they quit pawing. As soon as they quit pawing, they're giving you what you want, and that is to quit pawing. So take the chains off right away. Now they're going to think, okay, when I quit pawing, you take the chains off. When I paw, you put the chains back on. So they will get it in their mind because they're comfortable, uncomfortable. You made them uncomfortable by putting the chains on. You made them comfortable when you took them off. So there you are. It's going to take some training on your part.
That's good. Great question. Next question. This one comes from Kiki. She sent this in earlier. She says, Steve, I pray all is well with you and yours. I've heard you say that you prefer to shape shoes to a particular mule or donkey. Does one need to be a blacksmith? How do you do this? I enjoy your show. God bless. Stay cool, healthy, and safe. Thank you. We love Kiki. Thank you, Kiki. What would you say to her shoeing question, Steve?
Great question. Awesome question. So I like to use St. Croix shoes. St. Croix is a good solid shoe. It's easy to shape. You would use an anvil, and then you would take the foot and you would shape the foot to the shoe. Now, here's what you've got to remember. When you shape the shoe, you shape it according to the white line, not the outside wall, because the outside wall can turn one way or another. So you can shape it with a hammer, with a shaping hammer, but you have to have an anvil, and you can shape it and put it right on. Now, I've trained a lot of people, Dave, how to shoe. It's not rocket scientist, folks, at all, but it can be a science when you have to do corrective shoeing. Here's the biggest problem, folks, we have with our mules. The majority of mules, they are contracted in the heels. And so the back of that heel is coming around, making the frog small. That's why you have to have a shoe on so you can spread the heel. You can't spread the heel, folks, if there's not a shoe on, you know. So shaping the shoe, yeah, easy to do. You just have to take the hammer and the anvil and spend time with it and shape them.
If somebody wants to learn to do that, is that something that you would cover in Shoeing Your Mule and Donkey video?
I cover a lot in there, but I don't cover, you know, and I do shape a shoe and this sort of thing, which would be a good one. The best thing they can do really is they can go to a farrier school. A lot of the colleges with animal husbandry has that class as well. I put together a class at Pierce College in LA for it, what teaches you how to do it. But yeah, that shoeing video, Dave, is probably the best thing to get them started. They'll start learning the vernacular. They'll start talking about mules, white lines, soles, and all getting all the basic wording in their minds.
One of the things that folks, we get this question probably, I don't know, a variation of this question 5 or 6 times a month. Where do I need to start? I'm looking to buy my first mule. Where do I need to start? I'm thinking about getting a donkey. What should I do to get prepared? And the number one thing is information. Learn. Because what you'll find is when you get this animal, there's a whole, it is just a fire hose of things that you're going to need to know. And if you've already learned, number one, you'll learn exactly what to look for when you're buying. But then if you've already learned those things and you get this animal, you're going to have, you may not have a real quick fire trigger understanding, but you'll have a foundation that you can build off of. And of course, if you've got the come along rope and the rope halter and the problem mule video, you can get right to work right away doing groundwork foundation. But when we're talking about shoeing and this sort of thing, understanding the basics, there really is not a better place for you to start when you're thinking about doing any portion of the process, including the shaping, understanding how the foot is made, how the frog goes, corrective shoeing, the terminology. Yeah, that's an incredible place to start. So very good. Appreciate you asking that question, Kiki. The next question that I got, this one got emailed in from TA. He says, I have a question about pairing a rider with a right-sized mule. So talking about what's a good size for the rider to the mule. I am new to the world of mules and horses. We're glad that you're here, TA. I'm looking to buy a mule for riding and packing purposes. I'm 6'2", and I weigh about 215 pounds. I'm curious to know how tall of a mule I should be looking for. I don't want to have my legs dragging on the ground as I'm riding. I've searched the internet for information on this, but it has been fruitless. Please email me if you can help answer this. I absolutely love your YouTube videos. I watch all the time. Steve, I'm glad that TA reached out, and I'm glad that we're going to be able to talk to him a little bit about this. What would you have to say about his question of what size should I be looking for?
Well, it's more of a visual thing than anything else, Dave. My hunting partner was 250 pounds, and he was about 6'2", and he rode a 14'2" mule. It was easy to get on and off of and things like this. He looked like Friar Tuck sitting on a small thing, but he did okay. So if answering his question, I would go with a 15'2" mule, and that would be a really nice 15'2" is a nice average riding size, okay, for a lot of riders. Personally, with me, since it's hard for me to get my leg up and this sort of thing, I like my 13'2" mule called Rocky up at the Andrada Ranch. You know, that's where I was past couple of days, and the stirrup is only about this high up off the ground. You know, that's really nice, and that Rocky can get me anywhere. But if we're looking at aesthetics, so to speak, I'd put you on a 15'2" mule. You'd be good. You'd do just fine.
Very good. I haven't really gotten that question ever before, so really appreciate that coming in, TA. Let's see here. Going back to Facebook, Linda says, for what it's worth, I've found that Theo no longer paws in cross ties if I have his rope halter adjusted correctly, and the cross ties are at a length that allows him to relax his neck. He's happy to stand if he can do so comfortably. And I think that's, Steve, you can stop me if I'm speaking out of turn, but I think that kind of goes to what she's saying is straightness. If you've got them tied up and they have that rope halter on them, the idea here that is if they move one way or the other, if they put any type of pressure for one reason or another, it's going to make them uncomfortable at their nose. I mean, am I thinking the correct direction there?
You bet. As long as you got that rope halter adjusted exactly. I can tell you that normally I would tell you stay clean away from cross ties. If I've ever been hurt really bad on the ground with an animal being tied to a hitching rail, it's been with cross ties. Dr. Robert Miller, noted great physician, veterinarian, and this sort of thing. He never likes to have animals in cross ties, and he says the same thing. It's worse. He's been hurt by the things because they can move around way more on cross ties than they can being tied to a hitch and rail, for sure, or side of a trailer, whatever side of a building. But here's the key, Dave: properly adjusted rope halter makes all the difference in the world. The downside of the rope tie, of the cross ties, is normally you use a nylon halter and you attach into the side, the D-rings on the side with the rope ties. With the halter, the rope halter, she has to tie to the rope on the bottom. And the downside of it, that can be, they can't get their head down to relax. That would be one thing that I would consider.
Very good. Got a question here from Debbie. She sent this in on Facebook, sent us a message, says, I need help, please. Well, Debbie, that's what we're here for. We bought a mule a month ago. Congratulations. Very gentle. Woke up the next morning to a very skittish mule. Uh-oh, Steve, this is what we hear. I get Mr. Mule one day, and then when he comes home, it's a completely different mule. He acts like you're going to beat him. After I catch him, you can clean his hooves, brush him, and he stands tied and always watches me. But the slightest wrong move, and he loses it. Can you give me some pointers, please?
So how long have they had this mule now?
About a month.
About a month, yeah. All right. So anytime I hear there's changes in the mentality, things like this kind of boogering stuff, I got to ask about feed. What is your nutritional program? Tell me what that is. And then I can take you from there and go on. So many times, Dave, people will take and buy a new mule, and that mule has been eating ABC, whatever it may be. And then they come home, come to their place, and now we're feeding them EFG. So we're feeding them way different feed than what they had. Folks, you want to keep your animals on the same feed. If you just buy a new mule, or if you're taking the mule on a long trail ride someplace, keep feeding the same feed. Try not to have changes in feed, because you can have changes in their intestinal system. You can have changes also in their mind. And a lot of times, Dave, well, like the article, which would be really good for her to read, is mules cannot stand prosperity. And in there you will read where had a perfectly good mule, good trained mule that I trained. Norman was a great mule, and kaboom, she all of a sudden, she said overnight, he became a monster. He started looking for monsters. No, it wasn't overnight, it was coming, because some other people got him away from feeding the pellets that I was feeding, got into feeding him grain and alfalfa, and the mule went bonkers. So let's get to know about the nutrition program, and we can talk from there.
We've got a new article that's going to be coming out, and folks, if you're not receiving Steve's emails when we send out new articles and invitations to this clinic and this sort of thing, I'm going to put a link in the comments section for the Feed Talk video. Even if you don't want that video, just sign up, because we're about to release a brand new article that we've been working on for the last 2 or 3 months. And this article is all about buying a mule. Where should you buy a mule from? What you should be looking out for. Now, we've got the video, so you want to buy a mule. And that really goes into detail and showing you, demonstrating what you need to be looking for. But this article, buying a mule at auction or on Craigslist, it goes through and it helps you understand how to get a quality mule, and then when you bring that mule home, how to make sure that that quality mule stays a quality mule. And so there's a lot of really good stuff. So I'll put a link in the comments section. Y'all click that, get signed up. That way, when the email comes out and letting you know that the article's live, you can go read it. Shelly is watching from Sook, British Columbia. We've gone international. It's sunny and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Thank you for doing that translation there for you, Shelly. Appreciate that. Hopping back over on Facebook, Yolanda has a great story here, Steve. Let's hear. She
All
says,
right.
yesterday, Yolanda's always got something that she's cooking up. So we love hearing what's going on. Yesterday, I took a ride with my mule, and along the ride aside the road, we have no range, plains, fields, areas to ride, so we ride mostly alongside the road. My mule almost got hit by a van coming on the back, and my mule got spooked, I'll say. And then I'd be spooked too. And then I had the feeling my saddle got loose and moved 2 inches backwards, but it was dangerous to stop and put the saddle back in place. You know, Yolanda just got herself outfitted with a whole Steve Edwards setup there, so that's why she's writing us. So when I got back at the barn, it turned out that both cinch straps got loose when she got spooked by this van driver. Despite that, despite that the saddle was loose and free floating on her back, it never moved to the sides. So the combination cowboy saddle, leather breast collar, and leather breechin was a great choice. Checked her after for the spine injuries, and she has nothing and even has no issues today. So, Steve, a lot of times folks thinks that the breast collar and the breechin, well, actually the breechin in particular, keeps the saddle from moving forward. It doesn't. It keeps the saddle from rolling. It's the cinches that keep the saddle from moving forward. Talk real quick about why that saddle was able to stay in place and not roll the way that you might expect it to.
Well, one of the things you have to think about is when you have a breeching on, you have 2 straps coming across the back of the saddle, across the hip, and then you have 2 straps right and left coming from the breeching up to the D-ring underneath your leg. Those 2 straps keep the saddle from going right left. Not keep it, they help balance it for keeping from going right and left. And then the 2 straps in the back help balance it again. There again, the properly adjusted breeching, helped her out, because here's what happens. As we're going down the trail, as we're going down riding, these animals do shrink, and the cinches do loosen up. They loosen up because the animal shrinks. Well, you know, this is what I do, folks. This is what I do all the time. This is why you don't see white hairs on my mule, and this is why I have a minimized erects. Is every 2 hours or so, I will take a break. I will drink some water. I will get off from my mule. I will loosen up cinches. I will let the back of the saddle up and down, and I will relax that mule a little bit. And then when I get ready to take, when I'm done with my break, I go and I tighten the cinches back up again and snug everything up, make sure everything's right, and I climb back in the saddle. So every couple hours or so, Dave, I give my mule a break and I give me a break, and I loosen up the cinches. And here's the thing, the cinches do loosen up, and my cinches have elastic on them. So it expands and contracts and helps them to stay snug. And so the properly adjusted breeching and breast collar help Yolanda out, because each one has its purpose, and it worked for Yolanda. Yep. Good story.
Yeah, that's great. We love hearing that. So continuing on here, Jason is watching from Texas. Good to have you here, Jason. Linda says, glad to know about the cross ties. I guess I don't need them. Now that we have worked with your come-along hitch, Theo actually stands nice in the open aisle, ground tied, with the line dropped on the ground. Come-along hitch is a miracle. And what she's saying, folks, is it's just on there and it's just laying on the ground. But respecting the halter is what she's pointing to. That's pretty cool. Love hearing that.
Dave, here's the perfect scenario. You know, when you'll see in my original saddling video, I walk a mule up, I drop the lead rope on the ground, not tied to anything, and I saddle the mule up completely. That mule respects that halter. That mule that was pawing earlier, there's no respect for the halter, folks. And there's also, you know, it's gotten disrespectful even more. The halter foundation, folks, you cannot do enough groundwork. Now here's Theo, a one-eyed mule, doing everything just right. Now, Dave, I'm at Bishop. I'm at the World Championships, and we're competing. We got 100 mules and horses turned loose in there. We can't tie to anything. we cannot hobble anything. You can see in the video, my mules and horses are standing still and quiet. Why? Because they respect that halter. You know, folks, you don't have to always tie them up to do what you want to do. You want to impress somebody, walk up, drop the lead rope on the ground, and that mule, because he respects that halter, doesn't want that lead rope to move and will just stand there nice and quiet. You know, you take any one of my mules, Stacy, you throw that lead rope on the ground, they're frozen. You know, that's part of that ground communication.
Yep.
That is, you got to build a foundation from there, folks.
Right.
That's what makes a good mule. Groundwork.
That's awesome. Love hearing that. Linda, you may think that you are the lucky one, but Theo sure is lucky to have you. It sounds like a perfect pairing. Rosemary is watching, says, glad to see you back. Ben says, question. We have a timid 3-year-old mule. She moves anytime we approach her, shows all signs of being submissive with her head down, but I cannot catch her. Any suggestions?
Okay, number one, is she in, what size of corral is she in? Okay, that's number one. Now, folks, this is where I use a round pin more than anything else. That's where I use a round pin to help catch her. But Dave, what I do first, what's my first and foremost thing? Groundwork. Come along hitch, rope halter, groundwork. You do groundwork, they'll get respectful of you. A round pin does work, and it does, and I've got some videos on doing round pin work. But folks, you put the mule in a 20 by 20 stall. It's the biggest you put them in. And that right there is where you start. And don't put them out in the pasture. Don't put them out in the arena. Don't put them in your round pen. Build them a 20 by 20 stall with a way to get in out of the weather and start doing your work from there. Tie the mule up a lot. Tie it to a hitching reel. Tie it to a trailer. I always like to use chains, but they need to in order to help them to learn to be caught, you've got to do groundwork with them. Now, approaching them.
Hold on, I'm gonna interrupt you real quick, Steve. Just FYI, Ben was real quick on the draw. He says 18 by 20 stall. So FYI, just as you're talking, that's what he's got.
Good for you, Ben. All right. So now, when we approach the animals, we do not approach the nose. We do not approach the hip. The hip says go forward. The nose says whoa or come to me. Here's the thing. If you approach the shoulder, that's the neutral zone. Learn to approach the shoulder. Now, here's the other thing, Ben. When you're walking, folks, and you're walking towards your mule, if the mule is looking at you, he's saying, come on, visiting hours are over. But if he looks away, you stop. Don't keep going toward the mule, because the mule will then think, okay, you want me to leave. So most mules become hard to catch because we kept going toward them. If they're looking at you, visiting hours are on. Come on. If they're not looking at you, but they got an ear to you, they're saying, come on, but come slow. Always approach the shoulder. Don't approach the nose. Okay? And never keep going at them if they turn away from you. If they turn away from you, they're saying, oh, you want me to go that way? Well, yeah, because you kept going toward them. You're the herd leader, and you kept going toward them. When they were looking at you, go at them. When they look away from you, stop. And then when you do that, step to the right a little bit. And when you step to the right a little bit, they're going to turn and look at you. Pretty soon they start turning their tail around. The video, how to communicate, in that video shows me working with a lady with her mule. It's hard to catch. But the main thing I can tell you, folks, is groundwork, groundwork, groundwork. Get the come along hitch on that mule and start doing groundwork.
Is the how to communicate, is that the 5 video set?
5 DVD set, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, cool. I'm going to add that in there. Now, we've got a question here, and we don't talk about any particular auction house or anything in the article that we have coming up, Mules for Sale, how to buy a mule or donkey on Craigslist or at auction. But we do have a question that's come in here from Jason. What do you think about most of the mules that come through? And then he mentions a mule sale place. He says Jake Clark's. What do you think of most of the mules that come through Jake Clark's? And let's just go ahead and expand this out in places like that. You talk a lot about where's a good place to buy a mule. So let's just turn this a little bit. Steve, where is a good place to buy a mule? And you and I both know that's a trick question. Talk to me.
Yeah. All right, folks. Number one, it's not so much as to a good place to buy a mule, but you having the knowledge to know what to buy in a mule. You having that knowledge. Don't depend on somebody to say, look, this mule I can stand on top of and wave a flag. This mule I can crawl between his legs. This mule I can lay down. Wait a minute, folks. That's dog and pony stuff. That's not true foundational training. True foundational training in a 10-foot circle, side pass, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, back up nice and quiet, okay? When they can do stuff like that, and you see that on the video, that is far better than going through water, far better than seeing them ride by you, far better than seeing them lay an animal down, you know? That's far better. This way, if you see them in a 10-foot circle, side pass, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, back up lightly, pick up all 4 feet, all within a 10-foot circle. Now we're talking about training. Now, all right, so now you're on the internet and you've got a bad case of muleosis and you want a mule. You've got muleosis, you just gotta have a mule. All right, let's look at it. Let's look at it. Here's a mule. Man, this mule has been there, done that. Worked cows, has got a little 10-year-old girl on him, and man, you're thinking, look at that mule. Look at that mule, and a 10-year-old girl on it too. Wow, wait a minute. Are we looking at anything else? Is there a breeching on that mule? Why isn't there a breeching on the mule? What about the rear cinch? Where's the rear cinch? Next thing is, why is the saddle sitting on top of the scapula? Why? Because there's no rear cinch, there's no breeching. Here's the thing, Dave, and here's the thing, folks, you mule and donkey folks, and the one just asking about these sale barns and stuff. Folks, the equine world has been turned upside down since 2008 when the economy went kapow, all right? Because of an idiot president we had. It's another story. But anyway, let's go on. So we got the horsemen that would never look at a mule before. Oh, you don't want to ride a mule. You know, why'd you do that? You're too poor to ride a cow and too dumb to ride a cow. But anyway, another story. So now mules have become popular. They are the bread and butter gravy of people selling animals. All right. The downside is, look at the horsemen. They're treating the mule like a horse. The scapula on a mule goes up and down, up and down. When that saddle is sitting on top of that scapula, what's happening? Bang, bang, bang. Look, folks, just that alone should tell you, why should I buy that mule? That mule does not have the proper gear to be able to ride with, all right? And listen to other folks. They'll say, oh, you don't have to shoe that mule. He'll be fine. He's got tough feet. Yes, you do got to shoe that mule. There again, folks, this is lack of knowledge on the buyer's part. I have people all the time call me and say, Steve, would you look at number 62 for me, or 95, you know, whatever numbers that they have on these animals, and tell me what you think. And then I would call them back and say, hey, there's no breeching. That saddle's sitting on top of the scapula. You are buying future problems. Folks, when you buy a mule where the saddle is sitting on top of the scapula and doing damage, you can be like one of my clients in Texas, Dale Williamson, who ended up getting bucked off twice and ended up giving his mule, hear that, spent a lot of money for that mule, ended up giving this mule to a company that could use him for wagon pulling. And Dave, I think we got an article coming up about that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and here's the scapula, folks. This veterinarian, when you folks, let's go back, let me back up. When you buy a mule, You buy disposition, not his color, not him crossing water. You buy disposition. How are you gonna know he's got a good disposition? Oh, disposition. Oh, the person said he just loves everybody until he gets to your house. And now he's a monster. Folks, unless you can touch him and smell him and spend time with him, don't touch him. Don't buy that mule. I can't tell you how many times, Dave, this past few months, people have called me and said, I wish I'd have never bought that thing. I saw you on the internet and I learned something about questions to ask. The video we got, so you want to buy a mule?
You want to buy a mule.
Yeah, that'll be helpful. But folks, just look at the gear. If there's only a saddle and they're traveling down the road, no buy. You're buying future health problems. Ask them this question, and you'll find this on So You Want to Buy a Mule. Ask them this question. When did you have their teeth floated? Oh, why do you got to do that for? You don't have to have teeth floated. What is your nutritional program? Oh, I throw them a bale of hay once in a while. No, come on, folks. You're buying something. You're spending a lot of money at these auctions, these high-end auctions. You spend a lot of money, and they can't tell you what the nutritional program is. They only feed hay. Come on. Come on. So just look at the tack alone. Ask questions, all right? And just because a 10-year-old kid is sitting on that mule, don't mean that your 50-year-old kid can sit on that mule.
Yeah.
Because most of them 10-year-old girls cannot ride me, all right? So where to buy a mule? You get the knowledge. You have that knowledge. There's a lot of knowledge out there, books and things like this. Get the knowledge, and then you go touch that mule. You smell that mule. You watch the owner ride that mule. You watch the owner pick up the feet. You watch the owner do all that stuff, and then you go. Where to go? I can't tell you where to go. Here's the downside. Here's the story for you. I have this guy, and this mule that I'm riding, and I'm demonstrating the mule. And everybody sees that mule side pasture on the forehand. Mule does everything. And then I say to the audience, okay, who's been riding 20 years? Person comes down, climbs in that mule. 15 minutes later, Dave, that mule looks like it wasn't even broke. It's not the mule's fault, folks. It's not the mule's fault. It's your fault because you don't have the knowledge to do it. Now that you got the knowledge, when you're looking at a mule and you see no breeching, no buy. You don't see a rear cinch, no buy. You got just in those things alone, folks, should tell you that those people don't have enough knowledge to be selling these mules for, quote, a trained mule.
So, y'all, we got this article coming out, and I'm just going to read this much because we're already past 4. We got a couple questions we're going to wrap up with. But here's what Steve says. He says, resist the urge. Don't buy a pretty mule. I know. You want the prettiest mule or donkey you can find. Trust me, that's not what you're looking for when you want to buy an equine. You may end up with a pretty mule, but there are a couple other things you may wind up with that you didn't bargain for, namely an unwilling disposition and poor conformation. In other words, you end up with a problem mule. A lot of folks will look at how pretty she is. I have so many owners calling me saying, oh, this is a really pretty mule, but that is what I call a butt mule. Yeah. She's pretty, but she has a lot of bad habits and just doesn't work. You want a mule or a donkey with a good disposition. And so I put in the comment section where you can sign up for Steve's mule saddle training course. Sign up for that. Watch those videos. Those are great videos. But now you're on his newsletter. Now you're going to get this article when it comes out. Folks, this is no joke. This article is over 8,500 words. Now, you don't have to read the whole thing, although it'd be good for you if you did. I wrote the whole thing. I read the whole thing. It's a good article. But Steve and I sat down, put it together. I wrote it down as he told me. It's a fantastic read. I want you to go through the whole thing because there is no good place. After going through it with Steve and listening to him talk and writing down all the words that he said, there is no good place for you to buy a mule. But there are the things that you can look for no matter where you find that mule, that you know when you walk up and you put your hands on that mule that it's got the traits of what can make a really good winner. Okay, we got that. That's good. Let's wrap up here with the final questions. Great. Great question there, Jason. Appreciate that. Bill made the comment here. Listen to Steve about diet for your mules. It will save you a lot of heartache. So we appreciate that. I'm going to make a screenshot of that right there, Bill. We want to make sure that folks know that it's not just us saying that, but that other folks are saying it. Alicia says, my mammoth got brain surgery 2 weeks ago. You were right, Steve. Whole new donkey. Love hearing that. That's great.
Day castration. That works good.
There we go. John says, howdy, guys. Beautiful day here in Colorado, Yurt, Colorado, in Montrose, Colorado. I will be replacing a mule who is aging out in the next year. Looking at adding another gaited mule to my herd. We have one of 4 gaited now. Any thoughts or why not to buy gaited? We use them for a couple of trail rides and in the late summer, fall for hunting and packing in the wilderness. Should I buy gaited or should I not buy gaited?
Well, look, folks, here's one of the downsides of buying a gaited mule is it's hard for everybody else that don't have gaited mules to keep up with that mule. So their mules are trotting, you're making it hard on them. Anytime I ride to the lowest level rider. I ride to that level. They're there to have fun, not there to be beat up. So that's one thing. Number one. Number 2, a mule has a natural single foot, natural little way to walk. I ride a 13-2 mule when I'm down at the Andrada Ranch down there with Randy Figgins and Mike and Figger and Traeger and his great wife Cindy. Anyway, going back, you spend a lot of money for that word gaited, but that gaited doesn't work when you're on the side of a mountain and you've got a trail as wide as this computer. You know, that gaited doesn't work when you're coming off the side of a mountain in snow and it's really heavy and stuff. Gaited goes out the door. You buy yourself a good quality mule that has a nice single foot, a great disposition, away you go. I can tell you I've had foxtrotters, I've had Tennessee walkers, I've had some nice gaited mules, but I can also tell you that I had a little mule by the name of Stacy. And when I was training some folks from the Missouri horse program, they were out here. Lothar Lowe was a German. He was selling fox-trotting horses to the Germans in Germany, and they come out. And my little mule was not gaited. She just could flat walk, and she kept up with those foxtrotters with ease. Me, the rider, but her being able to go. What really impressed them, though, Dave, was when we were back in the mountains and we were on Red Bluff Trail. It's called Nasty Trail. Them folks wanted to get off of their horses and walk across. And I said to them, I looked back, I said, follow my mule, trust your horse. Follow my mule. And then when they seen that little mule go through up there and they went, man, they were buying them horses left and right, because they said if their horses could go where that little muley would go, they called her little muley. If they could go where that little muley would go, they would buy them horses. So all this to say that gaited is a nice word. I'm going to tell you, I've seen a lot of folks that thought they bought a gaited mule and it was not gaited. It just happened to walk really nice.
Yep, there you go. So great question there. Let's see here. We're getting close. David has a good comment. I have been breaking animals to lead for years. Put a come-along hitch on my 8-month donkey. She was leading in 30 minutes. Thanks. Love hearing that. Now, that's not going to be the case for everyone, but it gives you an idea of just the power that exists in not just the come-along rope, come-along hitch combination, but also knowing how to use that, working on your timing, using that leverage. That's great. Butch says, hearing Steve's stories, I realized why we took a real shot in the dark when buying our Fluffy and got very lucky. And as a matter of fact, David Pengelly says, I bought a mule who had a 10-year-old riding. Got it home, whole different story. It's all worked out great, but it could have gone the other way. Absolutely. So love hearing that. So folks, if you're thinking about buying a mule, hopefully those two right there give you caution, just to make sure that you know what you're doing. Linda says, as you speak, I'm looking at auction photos, and even I can see that the saddle is pitched way up on the mule's shoulders. You've got it right there. That's why we do these. Folks need to know. Folks, we want We did webinars two weeks ago or 2 months ago. We did
Let's go.
happiness owning a mule, happiness owning a donkey. That's why we do this. We want you to be happy. We want the animal to be happy. Love hearing that, Linda. Sharon says, your new saddle is on my wish list. I love it. Sharon, it's going to love you, and your mule's going to love it. Linda says, I saved for months for Steve's saddle and tack. I'm so much confidence can come from the right equipment. Love hearing that. Gary's watching from Louisiana. Been out of electricity since Thursday morning. My mules stay in separate 20 by 20 pens. How much hay does each mule need a day to keep their digestive tract working good? I feed high fat pellets from Long Star.
Okay. Well, an average of, you take a 1,000-pound mule, and you're going to feed 6 pounds of hay in the morning, 6 pounds of hay at night. Feeding a little pellet is a good deal. Now, here's what I tell folks all the time, is start out with 6 pounds, morning and night. See how long it takes them to eat it. And then you'll see it over a 30-day time frame. You may get to the point you'll be backing off of the hay and feeding just 5 pounds. One of the great things I like about pellets is I can feed a true pound. If you want to weigh every flake, you can do that. But when you weigh a flake, you're going to see every flake is a little bit different. Just because it's 4 inches thick doesn't mean it's going to weigh 6 pounds. So standing around, just being in the corrals, 6 pounds morning, 6 pounds at night for a 1,000-pound mule. Add it according to how quickly they eat their hay.
That's good. All right. Let's see. Actually, I think I got one more. Yeah. Okay, this one's from LaDonna. This was emailed in. I have a 35-inch donkey. He would walk through a plastic pool. Now he would walk through a plastic pool. Now he will not. I have them blocking his stall where he had to walk through them to eat, which he does. He will not lead through with me. I can try for an hour. He also leads slowly. Sometimes he stops if he does not want to go, and sometimes starts backing up. So it sounds like this mule thinks that he is the herd leader, thinks that he is the one in control. What do we want to tell to LaDonna here?
Okay, LaDonna, come along hitch, come along hitch, come along hitch. Get the ground communication kit. Folks, all of you out there with mules and donkeys, you should be doing groundwork a couple times a week. At least a couple times a month on the minimum. Now, folks, you don't put, the donkey will do it because he wants to go get feed. So she's putting the tub of water there because she wants to go get feed. Well, she's doing it for herself. She's not doing it for you. Herd leader, right, Dave? You're right, okay? Herd leader. So put the come along hitch on. Start with just basic come along work, like you see me training that buckaroo from Wyoming, and do the basic come along work and do it like that. Now, work your way up to a swimming pool. Now, get this in your mind. It's not important to cross a swimming pool. It is important to do it when you want them to do it, not when they want to do it. So you go toward the swimming pool, they balk. Go to the left. They see it now with the right brain. Turn around and now go back the other way. They see it now with the left brain. And then never turn away and go back the other way. Always, when you turn into the problem. Turn into the problem, not away from the problem. Trailer loading, crossing water, anything. Always straight ahead. Now, as we go, we turn and we go to the right. Let's just say the donkey stops 5 foot before the pool. All right? So I turn to the left, I let the right brain see the pool. I turn to the right, I let the left brain see the pool. And every time I turn in toward the pool. Now, if my donkey will make a foot or even 6 inches more ahead, I quit right there. I stop. It's not important to cross the pool. It is important that you gain a few inches. Now, when you stop, you back the donkey up a few steps, and you give them a pet, and then you walk them off. Don't just turn and go or turn around and go off. Back them up a few steps, and then turn and go. All right.
There we go. Okay, let's see here. I'm scrolling through. Bill says, thanks, fellows. Thanks, fellows, from Mules of Ohio. Good to have you here, Bill. Let's see, scrolling down. Beth says, good to have you here, Beth. My mule is very good on trails, except he grabs leaves from branches. How do I stop him from snacking on leaves? Would we want to put a muzzle on him, or is there something else we want to do, Steve?
Well, here's the thing. It's, even if you pull and you pull and you pull on the mule, they still have it in their mind that they can do this. My mule, Stacy, my wife's mule, was good and fast. She could be going down the trail, reach and grab a leaf, and still keep on going. You don't even know she's got it until she's got it in her mouth. So this is where I build a baling wire cavesson. I take baling wire and I shape it to her nose. And what happens is, since mules and donkeys care more about their nose than they do their mouth, this baling wire cavesson that goes around the nose, above the bit, and then a piece of baling twine to go up over the ears and tie to the other side. So it's simple. It's not a hard thing to make. So what happens is, when they open their mouth to get a bite, that baling wire bites them. It bites them. And pretty soon, since they care more about their nose than they do their mouth, pretty soon what happens is they start getting sore, and they may even bleed a little bit. But you know what? That baling wire will get them to say, it ain't worth the bite that you're going to have. Okay? Now, I used to say, use your reins, go right, left, right, left. But let me tell you, they'll get so fast, get a bite and gone before you even know it's there. And my wife's mule, Stacy's good about that. So take some baling wire, take one and go around the nose to make the shape. And you want it just enough that they can barely open their mouth a little bit. Go above the bit, and then take your second one and go around it to a circle, but kind of go in and out, weave it, and take your third one and weave it, and then tie some baling baling twine from the right side to the left side so that you can tie it off, and then put that on. And I'm going to tell you, my wife's little mule, Stacy, if he didn't put it on, she would get more bites than you can imagine. But when you did put it on, she'd go ahead and respond. Okay. Now this comes back to this, folks. I've got a video out that RFD had made, and it's called communicating with mules. Communicating with mules. You'll see a mule in there trying to get a bite. Again, I go back to the come along hitch. I go back to ground communication. So I'm standing there, and this was a harness mule. This mule was wanting to get a bite, and every time he reached down to get a bite, I bump him with the come along. Again, I was bumping the nose. So I could say to you, take the come along hitch, go down the trail, and do some come along work before you use this baling wire cavesson.
Very good. I just found that Communicating with Mules video. I put a link in the comment section. We got through everything. Last comment here is from Yolanda. She says, just asks, you are so right, David. So I'm going to take a screenshot of that and show that to my wife. Look, I'm right about something. Just ask Steve how I bought my mule in Spain 3 countries away from where I live. I never saw her in real life, but only by WhatsApp. And I wrote and called Steve what to do, and I had the choice between 2 mules. I remember Steve asked me the prices of these mules, and I told him. Then he yelled, you got to buy them both. Well, I only had money for one, including transport from Spain. So you want to buy a good mule? Go and see the mule that you want to buy. So that's good feedback. Go actually see, feel, touch, smell. We've got that article that's going to be coming out. Steve, we got through everything. We did it all.
There we go. We're done. I'm flying out tomorrow morning.
And where are you going?
I'm going to Springfield, Missouri, and I'm going to watch that awesome mule program that they're doing over there.
Mule Makeover.
What's that?
Isn't it the Makeover Mule?
The Mule Makeover. Yeah.
There we go.
They're taking these mules My granddaughter took a mule that was virtually untouched and is going to be showing it and demonstrating what she did after 4 months. Now, I can tell you, there, proud grandpa here, that she just sent me a scorecard from her last show that she went on. And this judge had 5 was the best points you could get. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5 on different categories that she was judging my granddaughter's colt on, you know. And my granddaughter got a perfect score except for 1, and she got a 4 rather than a 5. And that's an unbroke colt showing. She's been showing it against horses at horse shows and stuff. And I can't wait to see her tomorrow evening. And I can't wait to see her competing at this Mule Makeover.
That'll be awesome. That'll be very good. Well, folks, thank you so much for hanging out. Be sure and join us next week. You'll hear a little bit more about how things happened at that Mule Makeover. Maybe Steve will share some photos with us and some good stories. And if you are out in the area, if you're going to be at this expo, at this event, feel free. If you see Steve walking around, say hello. He's going to be there just incognito. He's going to be talking, but if you see him, feel free, say hello, just talk with them, yeah, don't be shy. And if you need something, feel free to ask. If he's got time, he'll tell you he's got time. If he has to move on, he'll tell you, hey, I gotta be somewhere right now. I gotta go see about my granddaughter here. But say hello to him if you're out there and you see him. Steve, that's it. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, Dave. We did it again. And folks, notice Dave's haircut, huh? He's growing up, you know.
I'm trying out a new model right here. Trying out a new model.
Yeah, it won't be long. It's going to be gray like mine, you know.
I'm chasing you.
Graying out in there, you know.
I'm chasing you. I'm taking my cues from you. All right, y'all. Take care. We'll see you next week.
See y'all.